Do I just hit record? Okay, cool. All right, so basically in order to get faster, you're gonna have to get slower, paradoxically speaking, because your methodologies will change and your habits will change. And as you change your methods, you're gonna need to like turn the cube in a different way or like have different types of like turn speeds and whatnot. So for example, if I scramble this quickly and you end up in a layer by layer mechanism, the way I try to solve the cube, at least to optimize the way that I'm thinking about solving the cube, is you want to solve everything intuitively with the ideas of like the same principles that you're using when you're doing layer by layer, but you want to take out certain steps in advance. So obviously, like with your white layer first or like yellow layer first, I try to stay on one side so you keep convention in your head. You have red, or I'll do white, red as a cross, and you want to build a cross on one side so you almost create like a set of doors, and that's the foundation of what keyhole looks like. So if I create a first set of doors where I think this goes this way, you'll end up having a case where you'll have blue, so you have white cross, orange, and all of the centers match up to the centers on the side that you're expecting already. And then essentially, as you build the first layer, you're leaving a slot open on the middle layer to allow you to insert edges that you need for your top layer or for your middle layer and your top layer solves. So you can create pairs on the fly and move as sort of smoothly as you need to. So for example, if we were to do this edge corner here, which is like the orange, blue, white, then you can move that over and then insert it directly. And every time you're opening a door, so similarly, we can consider these to be doors. So we'll do this one together. There's a red, there's a green, so red, green, white right here. You put it above where it's supposed to go. So this is the red, this is green, this is white. So it's going to go above it, similar to how you would do this in a normal solve. And what you'll notice is that this orange or this red green corner or this red green edge here actually matches up with this corner already. And so you can sort of see where this is going is that if you rotate the cube on the left, I'm trying to do it convention wise, like pointing you. If you turn it this direction, then what you end up having is that these two, this red, green, white pair is now together, and you rotate it into the layer that the orange or that the green, white already exists on. And so if you go back, so now you have this white part here, rotate it this way, build the edge piece together, put it back into the corner and close that door. Yeah, it's essentially called first two layer is the methodology behind that. But the basic like premise of it is that your keyhole is not going to solve the entire first layer. So you could solve the entire first layer, but what you want to do is you want to break it on purpose because you want to solve each of these middle layer edges before you finish your first layer. So that gives you the sort of ease of access by using this one space that you can move along the bottom of the cube to access each one of these unsolved middle layer pieces. That's the essential, quintessential, like, I guess, layering methodology or keyhole methodology of using that. And that's something that I taught Chris when he was first learning how to solve the cube to sort of create an intuitive F2L. As much as you can learn algorithms to do this, the best way I would do it is that you could sort of think about any corner. We can go back to using the same corner. This same corner, this like red, blue, white. If white is on the bottom and white is facing this direction for your corner, this QB can be sort of oriented in three different ways. It can be oriented with the white facing like left, the white facing towards you, or the white facing sort of up. And in any of those three cases, we have to think about how to insert that into the bottom layer effectively with the edge that it's associated with. So in this case, this edge is right here. So you have this red, blue. And so you can sort of see if you try to insert this directly, it looks wrong. Like you can't, this is not a solved instance, right? So if we want to solve it, we need to be able to break apart these two pieces. This is going into intuitive F2L methodologies. We have to break apart these two pieces in order to rebuild them correctly and insert them into this layer. So in this case, because I know that if I turn the face that it's on, so you can sort of tell there's no piece inside here, you turn the face that's already on. So now the blue is facing on the top. So on the white, on the yellow, so I always refer to faces by the color of the center because that color will never change. No matter how much you turn a Rubik's Cube, it won't change. So you have yellow and you have white on the bottom. So if yellow's on the top to begin with, the red QB is the one that's facing upwards on this side of the cube. So if you turn it, now blue's facing upwards and you've got yellow on top still, but you have this door exposed, and then you want to turn the blue side, this blue cube that we have, away from the axis that the door that you just opened, and you want to close that door again. But the reason why we're doing that is because now when you put it back above where it's supposed to go, like now this is now facing towards you instead of away from you, and this is on the bottom, yellow's on top. This the red blue piece is here. If we turn it this direction, so now like we had it hold it like this, now we're rotating it like this. You have blue on top, yellow on top, but the blue cube is facing up for that corner, and this other piece is all the way back here. If we rotate it this direction, we now have these two together on this side, and we've essentially paired that piece to being one, like 2 by 2 by 2 by 1 piece, or 2 by 1 by 1 piece. So now when we close that layer, we have the middle layer's piece solved at the same time as the bottom layer. And so that's sort of the introduction to intuitive FDOL is that you want to try to build these pieces by breaking things apart and inserting them immediately. I mean, the existing methodology for, I believe, what you would know as sort of the beginner method for solving it is if you already have the piece solved. So if you have this orange, green, blue piece, or orange, green, white piece, and you have this orange, green piece on top, you turn it away, or pull it, like open the layer, turn it towards you again, so now this is facing above it, close it, now these two are paired up. And then I think the algorithm would go like something around along the lines of like turning the top layer away from the axis of rotation, opening the door, so now you have this orange, white piece exposed, putting these two back into that layer, and then closing it again. So that's how you would solve that sort of like piece, but that's starting from a state where you already have the solved piece inside. It's the same, like you're pairing it the same way. The same 2 by 2 by 1 block is still the same, still exactly the same way. Same thing here. So it's another example of like blue, orange, white. So you rotate away, close, and then rotate away, open, rotate, close, and then you're done. At this stage, you have essentially like your first two layers solved. And I think there's a lot of different beginner methods that do different things, either permuting or orienting the corners first or the edges first, and then sort of trying to get to a state where you can permute them afterwards. Now, as you probably knew from the previous presentation, commutators are very, very effective at doing specific things. And so if we switch over to a different Rubik's Cube quickly, this is a solved Rubik's Cube. A commutator is when you only change specific pieces on a cube. And so, for example, if you do what's called a T-perm, which is essentially moving specifically these two corners and these two edges. So this blue edge is where this green edge is, and this green is where this, like they basically switch spots. So it just moved to a T. So this moved to here and this moved to here. And it looks like a T, right? But the reason why it's called a commutator is because the orientation of those pieces did not change. And so the effective part of this is that you want to get to a state where if you learn the commutators for solving specific instances, you can actually do pretty much anything with a cube, including things like blindfold solving. So the reason why it's so effective is because it always ends up in the same state. Like if I do a setup move for a T-perm, for example, so if I do a T-perm and I do a setup move where I say, for example, move this blue white piece to the top and do another T-perm, the same algorithm, and then reset it. I've now just moved this blue yellow or blue white piece to the top of the cube instead of where it used to be at the bottom of the cube. I put it back, we do the same thing. Now we're at the case where it's only one T-perm away from solving, and then we're solved. And you can look up like T-perm algorithms online. I'm not like, we don't have to learn the individual algorithms here, but learning the steps towards what that looks like is incredibly effective at like helping you sort of visualize the steps and moving from like a beginner method last layer into like a structured last layer. It's called Cfop for, I think, it basically stands for cross first two layers, orientation of the last layer, and then permutation of the last layer. And so to orient this, we sort of start with like this two look or this two set step process for orientation of the last layer. And so in this case, we have a line here. So it's just, I think I'll try to do it, you're facing, I'll do facing myself, but you could follow along by just doing like front, right, up, and then right inverse, up inverse, front inverse. Now, the assumption I'm making is that you already know cube notation if you're a beginner and you're just getting started. But now you've got the cross. So that was what we were trying to accomplish with the first look of the orientation. The second look of the orientation is trying to rotate all of the pieces for yellow to be facing upwards. So now we can sort of see these two aren't facing upwards. And normally I would do this in one algorithm, but like you do the entire thing in one algorithm, but that takes 57 algorithms for any state where your first two layers are solved and you need to solve the top part. So that gets to kind of hairy territory if you're just starting out. But if you're at this stage, there's two types of algorithms that you can do, and both of them essentially are just rotating the orientation of the corners of these. And what I mean by that is that if I were to just do it, it just changes the orientation of that. If I do it again, all I'm literally doing is taking one of these edge pieces out and then putting it back in after rotating it around the top a couple of times. And what that does is that you're essentially cycling these corners until they end up in a favorable position for you to be able to solve it. Now, the two that you care about the most is if you get to, let's see if I can just get there, okay, so this is like the plus case where nothing is facing upwards and you have two facing back and then one facing each side. So if you get to this part where you're on this corner or on using this side where the yellow pieces are facing you, you can go around and now you've got this, it's like a fish. And this is called the Soon case. There's two cases of this where when you're holding it like this, if the Soon is facing towards you and you have this piece right here, then you're able to do, I think it's this way, where you rotate it towards you, up, and then, yeah, wait, I should do that again. Let me just, okay, so we start from here, right, up, right inverse, up, right, up twice, right inverse. So it looks kind of magical, but it's just algorithmic. So we start here again, right, up, right inverse, right, up, right, twice, right inverse. And so from now you're at this stage, but what if we get, thank you, Xander, that was super helpful. In the other case, you'll notice that now this is not facing you, this is facing away from you. So you want to hold it the other direction. So if you're ambidextrous, this helps, but the other way you could do this is if you have this facing you and this is facing this direction, and you want to do it this way, you rotate it towards you. Is it this way? Yeah, it's this way. So you rotate it towards you twice. Oh no, I did it wrong. Sorry, I'm rusty at doing this upside down. Okay, I'm gonna do a Soon case first, and then we'll set it up like this. Okay, so if you hold it like this, it goes right, it goes towards you. If you rotate the corner around, it gives you the same result. And so your ideal case is when you get to that Soon case, but all you're basically doing is messing with it until it gets to that point. It does make it slightly faster than trying to do the individual permutations, because then you're not thinking about where the pieces have to go. All you care about is trying to get it to be facing upwards. And so in this case, now we need to, it looks like we have three that are correct. So these three look right, but the rest of it kind of looks like, oh, this looks off. Well, this one's right as well, but these two are wrong and these two are wrong. So this has to go here and this has to go here. And so this is called a V-perm, but we're not going to do that. Basically, there's probably one or two algorithms you need here. You need like an A-perm, which is essentially cycling three corners around the cube. And then you need a U-perm, which just cycles three edges around the cube. And so an A-perm looks like, oh man, this is like, it's 6 a.m. It's like 6:50 a.m. in Seattle. So I'm like trying to remember how to do this. Okay, so it's this way, so it's this way, twice, this way. Nope. Which one is it? I'm gonna do it on this cube, actually. I think it's easier. Nope. Oh my gosh, I don't remember how to do this. Oh, duh. I just did it. Okay. Yeah, okay. That was kind of fast, but you can look up what an A-perm looks like online, but I can't really do it off of memory, but I can do a U-perm off of memory. And so that one is essentially, you're doing a similar thing to what you were doing with Soon, but you're cycling the edge pair so that you can, oh, just did assume. I don't know why I did assume. You're doing a similar thing to assume, but you're following the edge pair along, and then did I do it the right way? Oh, it's this way. Yeah, and so essentially you can do that for any part of the setup on the same commutator to cycle any three corners or any three edges in the same direction over and over again until you've solved it. And it will always work within, I believe, 3, as long as you set it up correctly, as long as you move them in the direction of like, you can solve 1, and then if you solve the second, you should basically be able to solve the 3rd and 4th, either in a rotation or with a guaranteed cycle of the other 3. If you can't do that, then it's not solvable. Like for example, if you were to turn this cubey, like rotate one piece, there's no way to solve this cube. It's just not a thing. You can try it yourself. It's mathematically impossible. It's also just physically impossible. If it ends up like that when you're turning a cube normally, you should just turn it back. There's no way to solve exactly one rotation. I actually missed this question right here. I have a generic ideal cube. What brand would you recommend buying for a Speedcube? Yours seems to move a lot faster than mine. So I go on this website called thecubicle.us. I'm not sponsored by them at all, but I really do love their cubes. I've got 2 by them. This is the Mofang Jianxi. This is also a Mofang Jianxi. I think they also, it's the same logo here. But essentially, the reason why you want to buy those is because if you open up your cube, you'll notice that unlike normal cubes, these cubes have like a different style of edges and corners. And the reason why these are important is because the friction on the middle of the core is less, or it's the tensile strength you can put on it is higher without having it break apart. And so you'll kind of, I don't know if you can see it through this like tiny like monitor thing, but you'll notice that like the way that they engineer the edges and the corners and how they fit together makes it a lot better in terms of rotational rotational frictions of coefficient and the way you can sort of just rotate it and whatnot. Thank you, Alan, for posting it. I think cubicle.com, I believe, can do a fast solve for fun. Okay, sure. I'll just scramble this really fast, and we'll do this before this closes. Xander, Xander, thank you for you have a cheat. Okay, so we'll do one really fast. I used to try to race the founders or the other members of the club. I'm not very good by comparison. If you ever watch like Sarah, Kevin, or Bill, like they're all way faster than me. But I'm no slouch, but at the same time, it's just one of those things where it's just fun for me. So let's do this. Rotate this way. I know where this is going. So intuitive FQL, also the best part about it is that you can sort of like see where the edges are, or see like which pieces you want to solve. And if you can sort of look ahead to where the next step is, it sort of can help you determine what your next steps are before you get there. Oh, I know this one. I skipped the PLL for the outside. Nice. So I actually got a lucky case where I only had to rotate the edges and not any of the corners. And when I said I knew that one, I don't know all 57 OLLs myself. I know about 40, but if you can reduce it down to something you know, then it's easier to solve that way. So careful about buying this. I agree, yes. Do not buy generic stuff from Amazon, I would say. I would recommend using specific like professional shops like Cubicle. It might be slightly more expensive, but I can guarantee you like those products, I stand by those as well. Like I just bought some new cubes from them that I'm probably getting in a couple of weeks. But like the contours, the way it turns, what I was talking about earlier was that with some other people is that if you can do this with your cube, then you're actually able to turn it faster because it won't lock up on you as much. And that's all in the engineering of the cube itself. So thanks for attending the breakout room, and take care, everyone.
So welcome back, everyone. Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of our event. I hope you all enjoyed learning about the Rubik's Cube and practicing your cubing skills, honing them for future use. I just wanted to close by thanking our presenters for joining us today and sharing their expertise. That really was a lot of fun. Take a look, everybody's online now. So say thank you, and certainly my thanks to all of you. And I want to thank all our participants today. That's you. As I said earlier, we deeply value our alumni and our extended math community, and are really thrilled when we have opportunities like this to connect. We also just like to have fun and actually get out and play with math and computing. As enjoyable as today's virtual event was, I very much hope we can meet in person in the near future. Fingers crossed that as vaccines roll out across the world, this will soon become possible. In the meantime, we'd love for you to stay connected and get involved. There are a few ways you can do this. You can subscribe to the eTies, our alumni newsletter, to get the latest faculty news and to hear about upcoming events. You can register to our math digital community and connect with fellow alumni. And you can sign up to be a volunteer and play a role in events like this in the future. Please see all the links in the chat. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.